Hello, hey everyone. Thanks for joining us for the workshop today. We've got an awesome section here. We're going to be talking about running effective Facebook campaigns. So first of all, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Tyler Hakes. I'm the principal and strategy director at Optimist. We're a growth-focused content marketing agency, and we work primarily with startups, SaaS, and other growth stage B2B and technology companies. But we also run a growth community that's focused on all things content marketing, inbound, and SEO. It's called Top of the Funnel. You can join it for free. It's a Slack group. You just go to Optimist, YES Optimist.com/tofu, TOFU. There may be a link down below in the description that will take you there. But yeah, today's workshop is just one of the many educational sessions that we host for the Top of the Funnel community. We have over 300 members. Everyone has just been so wonderful. There are constantly tips and tricks, articles being shared, work opportunities being posted almost every day. We have folks who are consultants and agency owners like myself. We have freelancers, we have in-house teams. They're all in there just kind of chopping it up and sharing what they've learned about content marketing, about SEO, and all that great stuff. It's a great community to be involved, or it's a great community for anyone who's involved in content marketing and SEO. So again, head over to yesoptimist.com/tofu, TOFU, and join us there. And then I just want to make one more quick plug, which is to please subscribe to our growing little YouTube channel here. We've been doing a lot of workshops and Q&As, basically one every 2 weeks. They're all live right here on YouTube. We have some really amazing upcoming sessions on topics like thinking like a journalist, diversifying your content portfolio, refreshing content to get better SEO results, self-management, staying creative, working with nonprofits, a whole bunch of stuff that's already planned for the next several months. So what do the kids say these days? Smash the subscribe button, right? Yes, do that. Please smash that subscribe button and get updates whenever we go live. We're going to be continuing to do these sessions and really hope to see you in the future. All right, so that's my whole spiel here. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's guest. Logan, so grateful to be able to snag some time today with Logan Mayville. He's a friend and colleague of mine. We've been working together now for, Logan, was it 3 years, I think, right? Mm-hmm. Thanks so much for being here, man.
Yeah, glad to be here. Excited for today.
Yeah, likewise. So Logan is a writer and a content marketer, but his full-time focus now is on Facebook ads. He's an expert at running full funnel Facebook campaigns. He offers consulting and training, plus ongoing coaching for people hoping to learn Facebook ads, run their own campaigns, and just really figure out how to dial in the platform. I think, it's one of those things that's complicated for people like me who don't necessarily know what they're doing. So we're definitely in for a nice freebie here today with getting some of his time. So today's workshop, I believe, Logan, you're going to cover both sort of a high-level framework that you teach with your clients and then some tactical and step-by-step stuff. And I think you shared with me that you're going to jam live, like right in the ads manager for us. Is that right?
Yeah, why not? The best way to learn is by doing. I can talk about theory quite a bit, and obviously there's plenty of information on theory on YouTube and different blogs, and there's plenty of hacks and tips. But really, this talk is designed for someone who wants to build the foundation that you can kind of tweak and add to your own. Obviously, I can't. In a group setting, you can't tell anyone specifically exactly what to do on Facebook ads. But what I hope to provide is a framework that you can implement and say, oh, I understand how all the buttons are working now. I can apply this to my own business with my own unique creativity and strategy and things like that. But like I said, there are a couple things that you just got to get right. And that's where I'm going to start today. But yes, I will dive into the actual ads manager.
Amazing. Well, you know me, Logan, well enough to know that I'm a sucker for a good framework. So yeah. I'm super excited to jump in. Just one final thing here real quick before we kick things off. I just want to let everyone know kind of what's in the store for today. So we're planning to do about a 40-minute workshop today. That should leave us about 10 or 15 minutes at the end where we'll be taking questions. So feel free to throw out any questions as we go through the workshop here. or you can save them to the end and toss them out. Then we'll try to get to any and all questions that we get at the end. So I just want to let everyone know about that. And without further ado, I think let's get it going. Logan, you ready to take it over?
Absolutely. So what I'm going to do is share my screen right here, so you don't have to look at my face the whole time. But please let me know, Tyler, if you can see everything that we're working with here.
Yeah, let me just get that added here. All right.
So far, so good?
Yeah, I think we're in good shape.
Okay, cool. So presentation today, like Tyler said, it's about 40 minutes. I'm going to jam through it. It's on YouTube, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end so we can dive into things a little bit more personal. Tyler, please interrupt me at any time if something's unclear. This is not a speech by any means. This is what I do every day, so I know it pretty well. Now, the Facebook ads two-step, right? You got to have a cool name for something or else no one pays attention. I learned this over time. So it's not a ABC proven method that's guaranteed to get you X amount of results, but you'll see pretty soon why I call it the Facebook ads two-step. So before I launch into that, quick story. So back in high school, I really wanted a cool car. I didn't have enough money for a cool car, so I bought a 93 Honda Accord, which hopefully doesn't date me too bad. But even back then, it wasn't what you'd consider cool. So what was the first thing I did, of course, was, buy some speakers for the trunk. I had two JL10s, right? Great sound system. Okay. Well, that didn't necessarily make it any faster or cooler. So bought some rims. Then I bought cold air intake because that was really cool back then. If you watched like Fast and the Furious, it doesn't really make your car much faster. And so anyway, so here I am wanting a cool car. And then what I do is I spend money on things that I think would make it cool. And none of it really would make it a cool car. And so what you have to do is kind of go back to your original goal and say like, okay, I wanted a cool car, but is that really what I wanted? And when you think about it, no. I wanted to be cool as a high schooler, And so if you're a 16-year-old boy in high school, one of the ways to be cool is, of course, to have a cool car. So I started spending money to try to make myself cool through the car or whatever, but I just never got there because, let's face it was a 93 Honda Accord. It's just never going to be cool. And so this is what I see people doing with Facebook ads all the time. They want a cool ad, and they put some research and time and effort to make a cool ad, but in actuality, no one wants a cool ad. You want the result that the ad brings to it. And so you really have to take a step back and say, like, what do I actually want as my business result? Do I want more leads that I can call? Do I want more sales? And so don't fall into the trap that I did, where you end up spending money on something that's not even really what you want. So
it's some deep existential life advice there, Logan. I love it.
Yeah. So take a step back, figure out what you really want, and then apply this new framework that I'm going to tell you about. So, okay, the framework. Basically, I've coached dozens of clients, and also I do run ads myself for larger clients as well. And over time, I've been doing this for off and on for about 10 years, so to speak, and way before the Facebook pixel and everything. And what I found is that there is kind of a framework to get you to be fully complete. You're going to have to adjust that over time, and because Facebook ads is an iterative process, just like all marketing. But basically, there are 9 steps where I would say if you do all those, you're going to have success with Facebook ads. Every single person who comes to me is missing one of the steps in a crucial component. So the first step is the technical foundation. This is getting your business manager and Facebook pixel set up. From there, it's, how are you going to target and who you're going to target and how is that set up? What kind of, and again, real quick, I speak mostly to lead gen. I'm not going to really touch on e-commerce in this. So of course, for lead gen, what you need is some sort of offer. And then, so 3 steps, and we haven't even talked about an ad yet. And that's just how important the foundation is, because you're not going to have success with a good ad. You need all this stuff to work too. Mm-hmm. Conversion funnels, marketing funnels, how are you tracking someone going through there? How are you providing a user experience that's conducive to lead generation? And then finally, you get to the ad creative. And this is, what types of videos and how does copy work and things like that. Then you can launch. And of course, after you launch, Facebook ads and all digital ads are great because you get a feedback loop of data coming at you, as opposed to like a direct mail drop where you just kind of like spend your money and hope for the best. You set up a command center, and then you can start doing things like testing. What are you going to test? We're going to talk about that a little bit later. And then if your tests go well and you do have budget and your business allows for you to scale, then you can kind of continue your optimization and scaling. So this is the growth game plan, and basically I try to tackle one at a time. So I'm not going to go through all these today because we don't have time, but because this is usually explained and trained over a several week course, but I'm going to go through some of the ones that I think are really important and can help you out.
One thing that strikes me there, Logan, is not only, are you 5 steps in before you think about the creative, but it's also one of 9 pieces here, right? So
yeah,
I think that really emphasizes to me the relative scale of the creative versus all the other things that go into making Facebook ads work.
Yeah, absolutely. The 2 things that you said. So first of all is, when someone clicks on an ad, do you really think that they're thinking back to what the copy said or the video said? No, they're now on a landing page. And so if that whole experience isn't thought through from a marketer's perspective, it doesn't really matter how good the ad is. And the second thing, of course, as you know, is anytime you really get into anything, whether it's content marketing or SEO, there's more to it, so to speak. So this is kind of how that works. So, okay, technical foundation. What I teach here is basically use of the Facebook Business Manager, which I'm not going to get into too much today, maybe a little bit. But really what this means is kind of how your website is set up and how Facebook is tracking the events that are happening on the pages. And so, again, kind of going back to the funnel here, you have to get this right. So the easiest way to explain this, again, at a very basic level is, and you'd be surprised how many people don't come to me with this setup, but you need to have the pixel perfect website set up. So I'll get into this a little bit, but basically your homepage and all pages of your site are going to fire the pixel event that's a page view. When someone goes to your landing page, like for your lead magnet or your form to fill out a free consultation or however you generate leads, you're again going to want to fire that page view event only. Now, if they get to the thank you page, you're going to want to fire the lead event, which allows you to track the fact that someone filled out the form and took the action that you wanted. So when you're tracking that, what that allows you to do is track not only lead volume, how many people are converting from your ads, but also cost per lead. And when you think about it, if you don't know how much it costs you to get a lead and you're spending money on Facebook, like how could you plan a marketing budget at a large scale? So,
right.
Like I said, this is probably not exactly news to everyone, but there's events, but there's also user experience. So I'm just going to jump in real quick and show you kind of what that looks like. So this is a homepage to my site, no news here. And you can see if I use this Facebook Pixel Helper, which is a free Chrome extension that helps you kind of debug and troubleshoot your pixel, you can see that there's the page view event right there. And that's the only event that's firing. Okay. So if I go down to my lead magnet, yeah, I got a lead magnet that everyone should download. It's right here. Okay, so here's my landing page, right? And it's very simple. All there is a form. Send me the cheat sheet, right? And again, page view event is firing, and that's it. Notice how I start with a pixel perfect Facebook ads, because again, if you go back to my framework, this is step 1. If you don't get this part right, don't bother going on with the rest of the steps. And so I'm teaching a portion of it here. So watch what happens when I fill out this information and get taken to a thank you page. And the reason I'm showing you this in detail is to explain how important the user experience is. So like a lot of lead magnets, I'm just gonna send them an email with the actual lead magnet. So, but now I'm on a thank you page, and you'll notice that the URL changed. It's a unique URL. It's got a little thank you on the end of it. And what happened? I fired the lead event right here. So what this means is that if someone had clicked on an ad and then filled out this form, the ad is going to attribute the money that I spent on it back in Ads Manager, and I'm actually going to see the cost and the volume and everything like that. But what I really want to stress here is what a lot of people don't get right is the user experience of this page. So first of all, I've congratulated the person, and I've just told, kind of fluffed them up a little bit. And I say that, the cheat sheet is on its way, be in your inbox. While I've got you here, take 5 minutes to watch this video. And so what this video is I'm just walking them through the cheat sheet. And so the reason I do that is because, we could sit around and email someone all day, but I mean, I've got momentum, right? The person just gave me their contact information. Why don't I kind of move on that? So I just walk them through this horribly designed cheat sheet that I made myself. And then if I'm, and it's only 5 minutes long, and I told them right away that it's 5 minutes. And then so if they're digging this, if they like the concept, why don't I just give them a chance to book a sales call right now, since I've got all the momentum?
Yeah, that's brilliant.
And so people use thank you pages wrong. And yes, it fires the lead event. And yes, that's what we're using it for. But from a user experience perspective, why not? Why don't I just think through all that and get more out of my ads, you know? And everything's totally optional. So I've explained, and then again, this video ends with, a little bit more about the framework, but so they see the larger picture. But anyway, so that's kind of how I view thank you pages. But as you can see, it's got the page view events and then the lead event, and that is all set up through the Facebook Events Manager and the Pixel thing. I'm not going to get into this because depending on what type of website you use, whether it's WordPress or Wix or Shopify, the instructions are different. There's plenty of information about how to do this, how to install the codes correctly. So we don't need to get into all that. But the crucial point is, without this type of website set up for lead generation or some version of it, you're not really going to have a ton of success. So that kind of brings me to the larger
I think one thing. Oh, I was just gonna say, I think one of the things here. Sorry to interrupt you, but it's just like getting the pixel on every page, and then I think you can configure a lot of those like specific things, like a conversion on the back end, right? So like once you get it up on the site, that's like the main barrier.
Yeah, like I said, it depends on your website setup, but the actual lead event is a tiny little snippet of code in addition to what they call the Facebook base pixel. If there's time, I can get into that a little bit more. It is so out of all these sessions that I do, it's definitely the most boring session. But again, if you can't measure what you're doing, why even bother? And so it's just, like I said, it's foundational to this whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay, that brings me to my next point. So the Facebook ads 2-step is kind of a beginning framework for running effective Facebook ads for lead generation. Of course, you need the pixel in place to do it. So zooming out really quick is because this is what I would say, if you don't have this in place, just use this system and build on it. And you're going to see why in a second. So, okay, use your imagination for a second, and you have to realize that there are 2 steps to the Facebook ads 2-step, right? The first step is prospecting, and the second step is retargeting. And at this point, everyone knows what retargeting is. It's not necessarily an advanced tactic with Facebook ads. It's pretty much the bar. But just for anyone who's unfamiliar, retargeting is when you go to a website, you look at a product, you don't buy it, you don't fill out the form, and then you leave. And then later you get an ad on Facebook for that same thing. And again, like I said, nothing new to people. So the reason you have to divide your mind into these 2 steps for this, for effectiveness, is because when you're prospecting people, what you're doing is you're sending ads out to people who don't know you. You're going to exclude your website traffic, and you're basically introducing people to your brand. And so again, you can certainly use a sales message, but in general, you're going to want to use something else. I'll get to that in a second. So there's a key difference between the audience between prospecting and retargeting, is because in retargeting, someone is already familiar with your brand. They didn't take whatever bait you put out there, so you have to do something else. I just provided some general tips about audience size, is because these are by no way, these are like hard and fast. But if you're going to take all the time to do your ad setup, to make custom videos, to make ads, you're going to want to target a decent sized audience to really give your campaign like a chance at statistical significance, when you're spending. So for local lead gen, if your town doesn't even have 150,000 people, like there's that, obviously. But if my point is, for your prospecting audiences, there's basically 2 ways to go about it. One is you could just blanket your town if you're a local lead gen, if you're a gym or a chiropractor or something, with a nice video. Or if you're a national audience, you can niche down to specific interests, like colleges people went to, or associations they follow, authors and books. There's a whole mess of things you can do with targeting. But I will say this: the Facebook ads algorithm and its machine learning capabilities are best in class, and more so now than ever, is they want broad targeting with really good ad creative. So everyone thinks that you want to kind of narrow everything down too much. It's actually not true. And again, there's a lot of information on that. Of course, when you're retargeting, your audience size is going to be narrow because these people have already interacted with you in some way, and we'll cover that a little bit more. So what is your goal with the prospecting campaign? It's the old sales adage, right? Attention, interest, desire, action. That is sort of the process for how you get someone to to fill out a form, direct response marketing online. So, you're publishing ads on Facebook. People are not there to read your ad or to buy your thing. They're there to look at pictures of people's kids and, entertain themselves or whatever. So how is your ad going to grab their attention? I mean, when you think about the actual numbers behind this, like a 2% click-through rate on an ad is very strong. And so that means 98% of people are just scrolling right past your ad. So the attention aspect of the ad is really driven by how do you stop someone from scrolling. Quick little distinction here. Every time I say Facebook ad, I also mean Facebook and Instagram. They're run from the same spot. So once you sort of stop their scroll and usually your graphic or your video is what does that, you're going to want to gain their interest by talking about a topic or a problem that they like. From there, obviously, you're going to arouse desire. And then lastly is, provide some sort of call to action. Click here, learn more, watch video, download, etc. Now, in your retargeting audience, the goal changes a bit because you've already sort of attained some level of their attention or interest. And so basically, they didn't take your action. So you need to figure out kind of why. I'm going to provide examples of how these ads actually look a little different. But the key part is to understand you're talking a little bit different to these people, but you're also measuring them differently. So when I've got this prospecting ad going out to this large group of people, things that I'm going to be looking for are click-through rate, right? If my click-through rate is below 1%, there's a good chance that ad I'm going to waste a lot of money on that ad, because if it was 2%, that's just a lot higher of, there's just so many more people at scale. Or if you're running a video, are people watching half the video? If it's a 30-second video and someone spends 15 seconds watching it, that's a pretty good indication of interest. And so that's a pretty solid video in a video ad. So CPM, cost per 1,000 impressions, is another thing that can help you gauge sort of the overall, the future efficacy of your ad. If these costs are astronomical, you're probably gonna have to make changes to your ads in order for them to be effective. And of course, since your offer should be present, cost per acquisition is always your number one core metric that you want, right? If you're generating leads at an effective volume and rate, you don't really care about these as much, but you need to look at them, especially in the prospecting. When you get to the retargeting, I don't look at the other softer metrics as much. I'm mostly concerned with, can I close this person? Suggested budget, $100 a day ends up being, $3,000 a month, which is roughly most of the clients I work with are right around there. If you're not, and that gives you ability to test and sort of optimize and things in a short period of time, as opposed to waiting weeks or months. But if you're not spending $100 a day, 80 to 90% of your budget is probably going to go into this prospecting area, because when you go to the whole concept of prospecting and retargeting is kind of like a snake eating its own tail. Like you have to do this part first if you want to retarget people, unless you just have boatloads of traffic coming to your site.
Yeah, I think that's a good clarifying point there. So if we think about this from a kind of a strategy perspective, this is really like a funnel, right? So we're these are run sequential, just in case that's not clear. So we're talking about prospecting people, and then based on the people who respond to the prospecting ad, using the retargeting to move them to the next stage of the funnel.
Correct. And the reason I don't use the word funnel and I use this two-step is because this is how you divide the campaign from a Facebook ads organization standpoint. This has nothing to do with your email funnel or your little offer bumps and things like that, because there's quite a bit more that goes into a robust marketing funnel. This can all be done with just these three assets, or two assets, right, really. And so again, that's why to start, you start here, and then you can advance your funnels after that. So yes, it is a funnel. It's a very simple one, and it's only got 2 steps. And I feel like funnel is overused, so we're 2-stepping today.
Yeah, it's a 2-step. I like it.
Okay, so hopefully this makes a little bit of sense. I went kind of fast over that, but from an actual ad account structure, this is what that generally looks like. So you've got your prospecting campaigns, and it could have, you want to exclude your web traffic, but basically, depending on your business and your goals, it's going to change kind of what audiences you target. But so let's say if I really want to trust the Facebook ads algorithm, I might just do location only. If I'm a location based business, spread that video and see how it goes, and see if Facebook can actually get the people I want. Or you might want to do location plus a demo, such as age or gender, or something like that, or a zip code. Then, of course, that's what we talked about, like interest based stuff. So if you're targeting a larger national audience, like you're definitely going to want to use an interest-based audience. Again, authors, books, that type of thing, habits, working out, whatever. And then, of course, another prospecting campaign would be like a lookalike of your previous leads. So what a lookalike audience does is it takes a data source, and in this case, previous leads who have filled out your form, and Facebook looks at that and goes out and targets people who have similar data characteristics of this pool of people. And so you'll never really know what it's targeting. It won't tell you. But if you're getting the results you want, who cares? I don't know if most people have heard of lookalikes at this point, but again, can't do a lookalike if you don't have your pixel installed and you haven't sort of run some leads through it. So again, this is a slightly more advanced tactic, but again, it's fairly common. Mm-hmm. So from that, your retargeting campaigns are going to be separate campaigns, and for two reasons. One is, as we talked about, the ads here should actually be different ads than here in terms of the messaging and the creative and things like that. Separately, you're going to want to look at your results individually as well, because your costs and your budgets are going to vary and things. So it makes sense to separate these at the campaign level. And we'll talk a little bit more about the hierarchy in a second here. So a very common retargeting audience would be like website traffic for 30 days. Maybe your website traffic from beyond 30 days. These are your old customers, and then or middle range customers. And then lastly, it's like, how do you revive people who visited your website a long time ago? This is where if you have a new offer or something like that, that could be, if someone hasn't been to your site in 6 months. One thing I wanted to pull out here is that in addition to retargeting, you can actually retarget by engagement that doesn't happen on your website. So if someone watches half your video, you can actually retarget that person. And this is actually really common in the Facebook ads two-step, is to send someone a video, put your close about halfway through, and then retarget the people who have watched half. And again, there's some adjustments you can make there. Additionally, you can retarget people who have engaged with your Facebook content or your Instagram content. So, if you're publishing a lot of good stuff, you've got a highly engaged profile, those are great audiences to send ads to that are a little bit more bottom of the funnel messages. For smaller accounts, a lot of times, maybe I'll combine these two. But generally speaking, this is kind of an ad account structure. So really quickly, when you actually get into Facebook Ads Manager, is like so you see I have a prospecting campaign here and then a retargeting campaign here. They have different results. They're tracked individually, and then the ads are different themselves. And this is kind of what it's going to look like at the end of the day. This is, theoretically what it should look like. And then in Ads Manager, notice how the cost per lead, the lead volume, all that's different. Based on sort of where you have these things organized. I
think that's just really, really helpful to kind of visualize it, because I think that's another thing that people fall into, right? Is that like you get in there and there's like a million options for each thing. And so if you just kind of look at it from this perspective, it's like, okay, you've got, basically 2 or 3 different campaigns. Here's pretty much a checklist of exactly how to set each one up, depending on what your specific needs are. But it's really only a few steps here to get up and running.
Yeah. And the crucial thing is, organization is always key. In all business, but in ads specifically, because like, let's say, if I'm looking at this and I've got a naming, so you can see that, for this campaign, I've got a pretty specific naming convention. And I know right away that this campaign is, a retargeting for this specific topic. This is the prospecting one. And you can see the results are slightly different. This one has a lot more budget. It's got more impressions than the retargeting. All of that makes sense. Breaking my own rules with click-through rate right here. It's a little bit low. But this is a B2B account. So anyway, not going to get into that. But organization is key. And before you get into a long, complicated funnel, my suggestion is just do a simple prospecting campaign. Here are some popular audiences to target for that. Follow it up with a retargeting campaign. If you end up with a structure like this, you are doing better than a lot of people out there. And it's not too hard to do. You just have to think through, user experience and then, obviously click-through rate and stuff. All these things I talked about here are really important in that prospecting campaign.
Right. So that's a good sort of key takeaway for folks, is that like, the whole point of the 2 steps is that you sort of break it down by the specific goal at each step, and then you're able to kind of segment your audience a little bit more clearly, put more relevant content for their sort of stage or their level of interest.
Correct. And so, I mean, and then this, to kind of put a really like a stamp on that, is like, you just have to be doing it this way. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like if you're not doing some version of this at the very core, you're just not maximizing your spend on Facebook and Instagram. There's a lot. I mean, so this is the thing, Tyler, is that people come to me and say, you know, oh, I want to run Instagram stories ads. And I go, okay, cool. Like, that's great. Let's put that into this overall framework, because if you're not testing this first, there's no need to go on to like the more advanced tips and hacks and things like that, because you haven't even done the basics right. And unfortunately, that's how the majority of people come to me, is they want that cool car, but they don't even know why.
Bringing it back around, I like it.
Yeah, I know. I teach fundamentals. I'm like that high school basketball coach who, you know, was just teaching defensive stance and, you know, running suicides, and you're out there, you wanting to throw behind the back passes and, you know, lobs off the backboard. You know, when you get cut from your college team or whatever, you're going to be thinking back, it's, oh man, I should have listened to that PE coach back in the day. So, okay. So if you understand this concept in theory, the other thing that you need to understand in theory or in practice, I guess, is the Facebook ads hierarchy. Is how do you keep all this sort of stuff organized? So I'm just going to go through that really quickly. This is going to be sort of probably remedial for some people, but there are 3 levels to the Facebook ads hierarchy, and that's the campaign, the ad set, and the ad itself. And so what's crucial is that at the campaign level, all it wants to know is, what do you want to do? So there's a lot of, so the reason it asks you what you want to do is because in addition to the targeting that you specify, the locations, the gender, the interests, and things like that, Facebook also collects data on people about their habits. So some people are very prone to clicking, and some people are more prone to actually filling out forms and actually buying. Other people are, you know, commenting and sharing things all day. And so it has little subgroups of that it's not necessarily going to share with you. But if you tell it what you want in the beginning, you're going to have better results, generally speaking. So the only ones that I really use for the most part are conversions, is the one I use most often because I work in lead generation. Traffic I'll occasionally use if I need to kind of flood a new offer or a new landing page with some traffic for cheap and get some data on the pixel. Video views, again, if I have like a, I want to use the 2-step with a video format, I'll use that sometimes. Lead generation, just for the record, is what this is. I'm sure people have heard of this, is rather than send people to a landing page, what this ad format does is actually it loads a little form inside of Facebook, so the person can fill out the form right there without clicking. These, I have a little mixed feelings on this. I've had great results with it on some cases, but a lot of cases it ends up being a little bit lower lead quality. So there's some tricks to kind of optimize that. But generally speaking, that's kind of what I'm using. For people who are running larger campaigns, they're going to use more of these. But again, you know, under $3,000 a month, you're going to be basically on this conversions, traffic, and video views. So let's just pick conversions, and that's all it wants to know. You can also set your budget here if you're using campaign budget optimization. But generally speaking, the whole reason this campaign is it wants to gear everything towards the same goal. So if I continue through here, it's going to drop me down to the ad set level. And you can see over on the left side of the screen, campaign, ad set, and ad, just like I said. So at the ad set level, what really Facebook wants to know is kind of who are you targeting. This is where you're going to separate your audiences at the ad set level. So let's say you wanted to test, you know, like a location only audience and also a lookalike audience. What you're going to do is separate them at the ad set level. And again, you get some information here about how many people you're targeting. I can fill out start and end dates. Here's where I put my audiences in and adjust all this. There's also some more details here that you can get into. A lot of it is sort of probably too much for this, but basically the key takeaway here is that at the ad set level, you're going to want to separate your audiences that you want to test. So it's funny, you do all this work so far, and we haven't even talked about the ad yet. And then so you get down to the ad level. And this is, you know, obviously quite simply where you're going to, choose your identity, what page it's coming from, what Instagram account, and then the type of ad, whether you're going to use a video or an image. These are very popular. Carousels are somewhat popular in the retargeting stack, so I'll talk about that in a second. And then collection ads are more of a e-commerce thing.
Mm-hmm.
Generally speaking,
and so just to clarify here, just take a step back. So the campaign itself would be like prospecting, right? That would be the campaign level.
Correct.
And the ad set would be like the different audiences that you're prospecting against. And
yeah.
So then you create a separate campaign that is like retargeting or re-engagement.
Absolutely, and you can kind of see how that's done here, right? So I've got here's what I'm prospecting. I'm going for conversions, and then I've got some notes about what this is about. Same for this one. Oh, what was I doing here? Hierarchy. We're talking about hierarchy. This is important stuff, guys. So one thing you'll probably notice is that I don't have time to get into what actually makes a really good ad, but generally speaking, there's 3 areas where you're going to want to focus, and that's your primary text, which is the part that looks like content, where you'd write your post copy, the headline, which is unique to ads. They don't appear on organic content, and then your media, your video or your ad. I think that this one almost needs its own separate thing because there's just so much to get into, and maybe we can talk about that in the Q&A. I have some examples, but I want to make sure we cover some of the foundational elements first. So it seems weird. We're talking about Facebook ads, and I'm skipping over probably the most important part. But again, if you don't know I can't tell anyone on the call what's going to make a good ad because every business is unique. So perhaps for a different time. But the crucial part to understand is that this hierarchy, campaign, ad set, and ad, is how you keep your account organized. So if you can see right here, there's the campaign, ad set, and ad, these little manila folder tabs. So if I want to look at, say, I haven't looked at this one for a while, but let's look at this prospecting campaign. And I only have 2 audiences right here, a lookalike of website leads, and then some interest-based stuff. And you can see one of them's performing significantly better than the other in terms of cost per lead, and also just volume of leads. And again, that's how you visualize this concept. Is each of these are ad sets, and then if I click down into that, I'm going to come into the ad. I'm using dynamic creative, so there's actually quite a bit more here than it meets the eye, so to speak. Yeah. But again, the whole point is that without understanding of the hierarchy, you're never going to be able to keep things organized to be able to make decisions. Obviously, if you look at, this video generated 9 leads, the results are fairly similar, but you can see that this vertical video this one is, in terms of lead volume, is the winner, so to speak. And that's what allows me to test and these concepts is, understanding the hierarchy. So hopefully that makes sense in terms of why that's kind of a foundational element. Helps you keep things organized. And I did have a slide here for ad creative. Here we go. Okay, great. So we have time. I'll go quick.
Yeah, we're just a quick time check. Yeah, we're at about 40 right now. So
yeah, let me. I've already done some of the command center stuff. So okay, so here's an example of a prospecting ad. I've added the red text here for kind of emphasis. And to note that that's where the primary text goes. That's where the headline goes, the description. Obviously, this is the content right here. And you can also alter the button. And so when you write a prospecting ad, there's a couple things that are going on here. Again, I'm just giving you an example. Everyone's going to be unique. But so first of all is the language. DCs is what chiropractors call themselves. Like no consumer calls them a DC. So right away what this ad is doing is it's kind of letting them know who's this for. And then so it says right here, learn the one thing you must master if you want to break a certain goal that they all have, right? And so what's great about this headline, which I did not, primary text, which I did not write, by the way, is that it's a single thought. One thing you must master if you want to break 200 patient visits. Okay, what's the one thing? Well, down here, the headline sort of gives a hint at that. Must watch free video for DCs. So, and again, obviously the ad itself talks about that as well. Notice, okay, real quick, notice that this dude is holding a spine, right? So I'm scrolling through my Facebook feed, looking at, pictures of Mother's Day and all that. And I see a guy holding a spine. It creates that tiny little pause in my lizard brain to make me glance up at this thing. So again, there's a reason he's holding a spine. It's to stand out, to catch attention. And then we get their interest by talking about something they like. Then we move them towards an action with this. So one of the reasons this headline was really effective is because must watch free video for DCs. It's basically giving you a hint about what's on the other side of the click. So it's like, oh, it's a video. I got time for a video. That's how you generate. No one wants to buy your thing on Facebook, right? They're very resistant. So the headline in this case is kind of a soft, like, hey, on the other side of this click, it's a video, it's free. Okay, I can do that. So that is sort of the anatomy of a prospecting ad. Retargeting can get a little bit different, right? So this is a retargeting video that's a testimonial. It's got a quote, it's got a little emoji. It's just a video of someone saying how great the program is. So that's testimonials, one version of a retargeting ad. Another one is go a little deeper on the topic, speak to them as if they already know what you're talking about a little bit. Yet another way to handle a retargeting, possibly more at a local level, is what I call the benefits carousel. And so this is, for an actual chiropractor, what do people care about? Well, they've got the off. So this is someone who's already been to a site or already watched his video. It's got the offer in it, but it's also got, it includes his x-rays. It includes, he's got no wait times in his office. He's doing extra sterilization. There's a map of where his office is. So what I call the benefits carousel is just, at this point, since the person already knows what you do and what you offer, why not just tell them why you as opposed to why someone else? So that's where the term benefits carousel comes from. Carousel ads are kind of cool because they give people control over the ad, right? I get to swipe left or right through this. So it's like I'm a little bit in control from a user experience perspective. They're a little bit more engaging that way. Yeah.
So just real quick, just to recap here. So one of the other things that I noticed during that prospecting campaign is that this is a thing that we've been talking about a lot as well, is that the ad itself sort of qualifies the buyer, right? So like,
correct.
Based on the language here, right? DCs learn the one thing if you want to break 200 patient visits a week. So if I'm a DC and I click this ad, it indicates A, like, first of all, I am a DC, and B, like, I'll understand and also want to achieve this specific goal.
Correct. And
I'm qualified as a lead, basically based on sort of fit and need.
Yeah. And to your point is like this. So you can always tell a little bit more about someone by what they do as opposed to what they say they do, right? So if I use Facebook's interest targeting and say, I want to target chiropractors and I want to use their job title. Okay, well, how does that campaign work? Well, if I judge my success on how many times people click, that is more valuable than saying that I can target by job title. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Right, because people are sort of signaling their job title, even if it's not on Facebook, by clicking.
Well, and it's not there. The other thing is it's not as reliable as people think. Like it's just the data doesn't work that way within Facebook. It's advertising is not one-to-one. It's not like like an email I can just send to one person. You're broadcasting this, and so I'd rather count on a two-step process rather than just saying like, well, I'm targeting DCs. Why didn't it work?
Right. right. Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah. So let the ad and the action kind of do some of the work for you rather than relying on the targeting.
Yeah. Agreed. So a couple of minutes left, going to buzz through this. So the command center is basically, and we already went through this a little bit, but it's, when I've got this data coming back to me is I've got my leads here. I got two columns leads here. I got my leads, my cost per lead. If this is all good, I mean, maybe you don't have to continue down, but like things I like to know be frequency, which is the average amount of times one person has seen the ad. You can see that some of these are getting a little bit high. It varies per industry. These are the crucial business results. And then as you go further down, you can see kind of what adjustments you would need to make.
Right.
This one, I've got this kind of limited because I didn't want to give away too much data from the client, but you can customize these pretty specifically. There's, look how many different things you could do. There's just dozens of them. So again, lots of information about how you could do that.
Right, but I think the key takeaway here for folks is basically that all of that initial setup and the structure of the campaign is what gives you this like super clear and easy to analyze command center.
Absolutely.
View.
We're just tackling them one at a time, Tyler. We start at the start. Okay, so if you've got this data coming in, and I'm just finishing up here. So basically, if you've got this data, this command center, is what it helps you do is develop a testing mentality. And you notice that there's not like one right way to test something or one way to look at data. But if you're constantly curious and you've basically adopted a testing mentality, you can take an iterative approach to your ads and they should get better over time.
Right.
So there's a lot of things you can, as you notice, there's like endless things you can test. But again, going back to the fundamentals, what should you test? The first thing I would actually test is the offer. Forget about Facebook ads for a second. If your landing page isn't converting 10 to 20% of your traffic, it's not a great offer, and so you might need to work on that a little bit. You get this offer stuff comes from your customers and your business. It doesn't come from Facebook. So if that's just kind of where I would start, right? Because no matter how good the ads get, if your landing page is only converting 2%, you're going to spend a lot of money on ads.
Right.
Another thing I would test is obviously your ad creative. That's kind of a no-brainer. And what I like to look for, again, assuming that you're not getting the results you want, is if your link click-through rate is like 1% or 2%, like between 1% and 2%, that's strong. And so that's going to work for a lot of industries. Now, when you're talking about, men's makeup or apparel or something like that, you're going to want to see that click-through rate closer to like 2 to 4%, because those are consumer industries that are, based on tutorials and things. So again, it varies, but kind of just benchmark. Obviously, your audience is one of the first things that you're going to want to test. Lookalikes versus interest targeting versus location only. Campaign objective. If you're not getting that top of the funnel right, you might switch up from between traffic and conversion and video views. One thing I forgot to put on here, which is another thing I would test specifically, is placement. So like Instagram versus Facebook. That should be here instead of campaign objective if I was only going to test for. But again,
so just to clarify, is this like a sequential order of ways that you would work through testing things, or how do you think about that?
A little bit, yes. Because again, think about it, like why bother with ad creative if the landing page only converts 2% even from other channels?
Right.
So a little bit, yes.
That's a good way to think about it too, is just like identifying these specific metrics, and then that helps you to sort of diagnose what the thing is that you actually need to test.
Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit in order, but again, it's going to kind of vary depending on what you're trying to do, and also your assets and things like that.
Sure.
But again, the testing mentality is really crucial. If you're a small business spending less than $3,000 a month, you're going to want to be testing 1 to 2 things per month. If you're an ad buyer, like there might be someone on the call, you spending, $2,000 a day, you're going to be testing more granular things, obviously.
Totally.
Okay, since I didn't do this at the beginning, again, my name's Logan Mayville. I'm a Facebook ads consultant and coach. And the reason I do that coach thing is because it's pretty easy to find someone who will run ads for you. There's experienced media buyers who can really get you results. And then there's kind of like maybe like a social media agencies who are a little bit more good on the organic side, but don't know maybe the lead gen part as well. And the difference is the rate at which they charge for their services. And so it is my assertion that if you're spending less than $3,000 a month, you really can't. You probably can't afford a top tier media buyer, expert level media buyer. You're going to be spending the same amount on their fee that you spend on your ad budget, right? And so I kind of operate in this gray area. My assertion is that if you're spending less than $3,000 a month, you have to do it yourself. But again, if you're going to do it yourself, you at least should have a framework that you can execute on. You don't just want to be sitting out there boosting posts or whatever. And so where I kind of sit is training marketers and entrepreneurs to run the basics on their own. Because if you have a good offer and you have a solid funnel and you're tracking things, you actually don't need expert level media buying. You need intermediate level media buying, and you can have great business results. And I coach it all the time. And again, the way I do that is, of course, to go through each of these issues in detail via video conference. I buzzed through about half of them as quickly as I could, but you can see there's a little bit more meat on that bone. So that's it. Sales pitch was short. Hopefully it wasn't too painful, but that is sort of what I do and who I am. And hopefully that was helpful to you guys.
That was awesome, man. I want to say again, first of all, thank you so much for doing that. I know, Facebook ads is such an enormous topic. So I know, we can't possibly cover all the nuance in a a 40-minute workshop, but really appreciate the effort there, and you covered so much ground. So super appreciate that. So first of all, it looks like we do have some questions coming in on the chat, so we'll scroll through those, and I'll just also remind everyone that if you have additional questions, feel free to toss those out right now, and we'll work through them. We got about 9 minutes here, so some time to go through. Great. So Jeremy was helping here a little bit in the comments, but Rizky was wondering about prospecting, and is that basically the same thing as targeting like a new audience? So
correct.
About the prospecting campaign.
So the definition that I made up for prospecting is these are people who don't know your brand, so you can basically assume they've never heard of you. Right. And the reason you kind of know that is because you're excluding your past website traffic and excluding your page likes and things like that. So the purpose of prospecting is to reach new people.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. So reaching new people, and then I think like we discussed too, I think the other the kind of the goal of that campaign is not necessarily to convert a lead, but just to really to qualify them.
I mean, if they're there, you definitely want to take them down. You're going to send them
sure.
You're going to send them to your offer and things like that. But really, you want to kind of let them get there on their own, and the copy and the creative should all be kind of problem based, or talk about their problem and things like that. Don't sell hard. You're not really talking about sort of discounts and things like that. I mean, you can, but generally speaking, the approach is how do I catch this person's attention and introduce myself to them in a way that doesn't seem overly salesy or spammy.
Makes total sense. Cool. So next question, Samantha picked up on some of the question or some of the items you're talking about with the lead gen forms. I think she's referring to the native lead gen forms that we talked about briefly. And you mentioned like some tips on improving quality if you do use that ad format.
That's a good question, and that's so here's what a lead gen form is going to load on your phone after you click the ad, right? So it's like a mini little landing page, and it's really slick because it loads fast because it's within Facebook, and so there's that aspect. And what also happens is that there's form fields, right? And so it's name, phone number, email, and what happens is Facebook has that information for you, right? Everyone has to have their phone number, I think, for the most part, and your email address to have a Facebook account. So what it does is it pre-populates that field. And so if you've got, just people just clicking, they can kind of claim a lead offer pretty good. So in order to increase the lead quality, what you do is add a couple obstacles before they're allowed to click. And so what that is usually is, what do they call custom write-in questions or mandatory buttons you have to click. So for instance, for chiropractic, like the two that I use pretty consistently are, have you ever seen a chiropractor before? And there's a button that loads yes or no, right? So they have to click one of those. And then secondly is there a specific issue we can help you with? And what that does is it forces them to write in, yes, I have neck pain or something like that. And what that does, right. I mean, it's good for the business owner as well, because they know how to approach the sales call a little bit better. But the reason I'm doing it is to help qualify those leads. So in summary, using additional questions or form fields beyond just the contact information is how you increase the quality of leads when you're using lead gen forms on Facebook.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting concept about just like lead gen in general, is that like there's a sort of an inverse relationship between like ease and quality, right? It's like the easier you make it, the lower quality, like you're going to get more people who will jump through the hoop, but they're going to be less qualified, etc. So it sounds like the main thing is just adding that, a field or multiple fields or whatever that they have to like stop and manually enter can make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. And then so Samantha actually has another question too, which is campaign structure. So how do you structure campaigns when you offer multiple products that each appeal to different audiences?
Yeah, so it's a fair question. It may be a little bit more of an e-commerce question. A lot of this kind of depends on your strategy, right? So like if the lead magnet is like a free consultation and then you can kind of guide someone down there, that's probably the way I'd go to keep things simple. But the campaign in the hierarchy system is used to decide what you want. So if you've got, and let's say we're not talking e-commerce, let's say it's still a lead gen scenario and you've got different products that you want to sell, I'd probably separate that at the campaign level. That way, you could potentially do it at the ad set level, but I reckon just to keep things organized and also to assess volume and lead cost by product level, you're going to want to do that at the campaign level. If there's any e-commerce people on the phone right now, they're going to laugh because there's potentially different ways to do that by SKU and how to organize that. But generally, yes, if it's a wildly different product that has a different sales process, I'd probably separate it at the campaign level.
Yeah. Okay. But I would, am I right in saying that like either one could work? So like you could do it at the campaign or the ad set level?
Yes, you definitely could. And again, it's so dependent on your business, right? Like if there's like if the products are, very hugely in their cost or their research process or something like that. Yeah, but generally speaking, audience is what I use the ad set level to separate. So I'd probably do it at the campaign level. Good question.
Got it. Yeah, great. And then a third question from Samantha, which is, do you use Facebook's A/B testing platform or do you test manually?
I do it manually. I have never had success with it. It's confusing, and I actually know how to use it, so I don't.
And so just to clarify for folks, like the way, like there is like an actual like native like set up multiple things, and Facebook will try to test them side by side or whatever. But the way that you do it is you just create, say 2 separate ads and then let them run at the same time.
So yeah, the A/B testing tool rolled out like a couple years ago, and it had it sounds really great because what it has built-in statistical significance. So it's basically going to give you a report that says like this enough money has spent, enough people have seen this ads where we can declare this variable the winner. And so it does sound really cool, but I mean, I spend a lot of time with people who run, thousands of dollars of Facebook ads per day, and basically none of them are using it to my knowledge. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but it's because like if you want to get that granular, it assumes you've already done all those other tests about the offer and things like that, and I just haven't found a use for it.
Got it. Makes sense. Okay, cool. And then we've got another question here from Kelvin. He says, when you get a clear winner, and I'm assuming he's talking about ads creative specifically here. When you get a clear winner, do you immediately test against that winner, or do you let your CBO learn fully before stopping? And first of all, let's unpack that. So CBO, I'm guessing means campaign business objective. Campaign
budget optimization.
So got it.
Let me explain that really quick, and then I'll get into, because he has a good question. So for most of Facebook ads, up until recent, like the last year or two, the budget was optimized, or the budget was set at the ad set level, right? So you have this campaign, and then you've got a couple different audiences, you're targeting in different ad sets, and you would assign a budget to all those. And recently, or like I said, a year or two ago, they rolled out the option for campaign budget optimization, which would allow you to set the budget at the campaign level, and then all the ad sets would basically fight against each other for the budget, and it's going to send money to whatever's working best. So you have no control over which ad set is receiving the budget, which sounds a little weird, especially for media buyers. But basically, this was in response to the algorithm is getting so good that they're asking you to give it more flexibility in how it spends the money. And if you're getting the results you want, it's all good. But one of the downsides is that a little bit of a lack of control. And so sometimes you can have an ad set in there that is just not getting the money, and you're not sure if it's working or not, and you'd love to test it more. Okay. And then so that's what campaign budget optimization does. One of the good things about CBO is that if you have ad sets that have audiences with overlap in them, right? Some of the same people are in different audiences. You're basically putting your ads in an auction against each other, basically bidding against yourself. And so what campaign budget optimization does is it automatically removes that overlap. So that's kind of nice. And there's a lot of reasons. So like, let's say you have you're testing a lookalike audience, lookalike 1%, lookalike 2%, 3%, 4%, up to 10. You could put all those in the one CBO campaign, and then kind of let them duke it out. If you're spending a lot per day, that's kind of an advanced tactic. But his question was, when you get a clear winner, do you immediately test? Here's what I do. I tend to use dynamic creative a lot, which is a tool that allows you to upload several videos, several different versions of primary text, several different versions of a headline, and several different versions of a call to action button, right? And then so I run that in a test campaign. And so what happens, as I was kind of showing you, is that you can actually see at the granular level which is getting you the results you want, which has higher click-through rates. But Facebook is mixing and matching all the permutations of all those different assets. So once you get a clear winner, what I actually do is I pull that headline out, I pull the call to action out, I pull the winning video out, and I'll make a new ad in a new campaign that's not my test campaign. And I'll actually create that not as a dynamic creative ad, as a singular ad. And the other thing I'll do is once I have that winning ad, there's a little trick you can do called like social stacking, or whatever you want to call it. Basically, is you pull the ad ID and you point all your different ad sets at it. And so that way the social proof accumulates on that winning ad, with social proof being comments, likes, and shares, which are kind of somewhat proven to increase results. It's a little bit up in the air in terms of if that's, but generally speaking, if you see an ad with a lot of comments and likes on it, immediately that your lizard brain goes, oh, this is a good thing. So,
Right.
okay, when you get a clear winner, do you immediately test against the winner? One thing he also put in here is he used the word, do you let CBO learn? And he's referring to the learning phase, which is it's a hot topic in the Facebook ads industry. Basically, the learning phase is, especially when you're going for conversions, according to Facebook, if you get 50 conversions in a 7-day period, that is you'll exit the learning phase. And what that means is the algorithm is fully optimized and it's ready to kind of scale and generate consistent, predictable results. Now, in practice, that's not always true. But that is in theory. So when you think about it, if you've got a small budget, a lot of people aren't getting 50 leads in a week, if you're spending $10 a day. So it doesn't apply all the way. But yeah, I actually create a separate campaign that's just for testing new creatives for people who are spending a little bit more money. Allow dynamic creative to find my winners, and then I pull those winning assets out into a new campaign with audiences that do work, that I've worked in the past, and I actually make a new ad for that.
Okay.
So it's like anyway, that's what I do, and I know other people do it too. But
cool. Well, we're just a couple minutes over here. We do have one final question. If you've got just an extra minute here, we've got a question about long copy versus short copy, and then they clarified specifically for lead gen ads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. This is a great thing to test. And so, like, let's say you want to, like, one of the assets you want to test is your primary text, which is kind of where the long copy goes. You've probably seen those. They can do like almost like a little miniature blog post in the post copy. And so the other version is just to do what it basically equates to 3 lines of text, because after you get past 3 lines, Facebook's going to truncate the post copy, right? So this is kind of that's a great thing to test, right? Because you can say, like, you're basically using the post copy as a little qualifier and a landing page, and you're telling this really story, or this story. So absolutely, I would test this. I would caution you that if you're going to use long copy, you have to be a really good writer, and you have to tell a very good story, and you have to know your customer journey pretty well, because what you got to do is you got to hook attention, then you got to get someone to click, expand, and then keep reading. And then, if they're halfway down and they're not engaged, not hooked, it's not going to work. And that's where maybe a simple thought that's just not truncated in a 3 line is going to work better. But if you're good at that, it could be highly effective, and especially in prospecting audiences, because and it's definitely more of an advanced tactic. And I think it's better. Long copy is better used in how do I say this? Like not like local lead gen. Like if you're a dentist or car repair or chiropractor or something like that, there's not a lot story that needs to be told. It's pretty clear what the thing is, and people just kind of want to know the offer. Now, if you're selling a course, a Facebook ads course, so to speak, is like, imagine if I could take some of this lesson and distill it into like a short little blog post that gets people thinking, And so, like, my first line might be, are you spending less than $3,000 on ads per month? Because one, a lot of people are going to say yes to that, but they're also going to realize that I'm spending ads. And so kind of, why is he asking me this, And then so my larger point would be, if you're spending less than that, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And I'd explain that. So it's an awesome thing to test. And I would probably say that the prospecting campaign is a better option for that. The two crucial things that you'll need for success with that are good copywriting skills and knowledge of your customer buyer journey, and then formatting. Like if you put a wall of text on there, just forget about it. Like it's pretty much gonna have to be one sentence paragraphs, maybe with some emojis as like bullet points as well. So formatting is crucially important. And what do they call that on LinkedIn? It was called broetry.
Broetry, yeah. There you go. Just hire one of those broetry guys to write all your ads, and you'll be
so. For Lau's question is that, I mean, if you have the skills, I would absolutely test that. And if it matches your product, the more complex your product is to sell, the more that's effective. And it's like when you want to test ad copy, if you're just going to like do one with an apostrophe and one without apostrophe, it's not really going to make a difference. If you're going to do one that's 90 characters and one that's 2,000 characters, that is a big change, and it's definitely worth testing.
Makes sense. Yeah. Cool. Well, I wanna be respectful of your time here, so we'll take this opportunity here to kind of wrap things up. So first of all, again, Logan, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. Just wonderful session. Lots of knowledge bombs being dropped here today.
Yeah.
Thank you as well to everyone who joined us for the workshop. I hope it was as valuable for you guys as it was for me. I'll make one final plug, top of the funnel, and our YouTube channel. If you haven't already, subscribe to YouTube, stay up to date on our upcoming workshops, and then hit up top of the funnel at yesoptimist.com/tofu, TOFU. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thanks again. And
thanks, Tyler.
Hope to see you all for future sessions. Thanks, Logan.